breaking news coming in. We're getting you a big story on Prime Minister Narendra Modi's meeting with US President Donald Trump. Ahead of that meeting, sources in the White House are telling India today that India's steps on trade are being appreciated. That's the word that's coming in from the White House. Steps that India has taken to address the trade imbalance. White House sources are also... And these are live images that we are getting you of the Dodge chief and Tesla chief Elon Musk with his children walking on that road on the Pennsylvania Avenue between White House and Blair House and walking towards Blair House for his meeting with Prime Minister Narendra Modi. This is a very, very crucial meeting between Prime Minister Narendra Modi and someone who's seen as the #2 man now in the United States of America, Elon Musk. A lot is being talked about on what's on the cards in this meeting. Will Elon Musk invest in India? In the past, he said he's a fan of Prime Minister Narendra Modi, but will that lead to more investment in India when it comes to Tesla or Starlink expansion in India? What are the plans? There are many who say that there's a lot of conversation about investing, but the actual investment, there is some talk that is happening about Indian Space Research Organization, ISRO, and SpaceX cooperation. So there are many, many avenues of cooperation between India and the United States of America. A series of meetings. Mike Waltz's meeting has just happened. Elon Musk meeting, then Vivek Ramaswamy. Before that, the Director of National Intelligence, the new Director of National Intelligence in the United States of America, Tulsi Gabbard, had met Prime Minister Narendra Modi earlier. I quickly want to cut across to India today. Is Rohit Sharma now joining me with the latest from Washington, D.C. Rohit, all eyes on this crucial meeting with Elon Musk. Many see him as the #2 man, the Dodge chief, and he's taken his children along to meet Prime Minister Narendra Modi. What do we expect, Rohit?
Well, first things first, diplomacy. He's obviously there to make some investments into India. There's been talk about Tesla manufacturing plant in India, creating jobs in India, taking Starlink to India, which is going to, obviously help his company. We've talked about SpaceX. And the other thing, and the most important thing here is, Gaurav, as you rightly said, #2, he is seen as the closest confidant of President Trump. You want to be in good books of Trump, you have to be in good books of Elon Musk. So definitely, that, and to my knowledge, and I've been told this from a deep source, that Prime Minister Narendra Modi will also be giving gifts to the kids of Elon Musk. So you can see how important it is. This is for the visit, how seriously is the Indian delegation taking this. They want to make sure they leave a great impression. And they obviously are going to be meeting with Elon Musk, trying to see if he can make investments into India. That's #1. #2, you want to be able to make a great impression because he's the one who's dismantling the bureaucracy in the US. He's the one who's leaving his footprints on pretty much everything, as far as the US government goes.
What a powerful message as we look at these images of Elon Musk with his children traveling to Blair House. All the little children in tow as they walk to meet Prime Minister Narendra Modi. And we saw those lovely images even in Paris of the meeting that Prime Minister Narendra Modi and J.D. Vance had. Usha Chilikuri Vance, she was there. Both the children were there. Young Vivek's birthday, and the Prime Minister had a lovely gift made in India, wooden toys, natural fruit dyes and vegetable dyes used to color those toy trains. So that's a big message that went out there. We have details of the presents today for Elon Musk's children as yet, Rohit?
No, we do not. All I know is for a fact that we will be seeing some gifts being given to Elon Musk and Elon Musk's kids by the Prime Minister Modi. So again, all in all, very important meeting. You're seeing the warmer, the friendlier side. They will also talk about the investments and all that. But this is very important, Gaurav, and I cannot overstate this. A very, very important person, a very important meeting. We saw what started last night with Tulsi Gabbard. We saw NSA, who was the former India caucus chair, at the Capitol, who actually played a very crucial role in inviting Prime Minister Narendra Modi to give the speech on the Capitol Hill, followed by Elon Musk. So I think this is turning out to be a very impressive meeting that the Prime Minister is having. And remember this, Gaurav, there were other three leaders who also visited Washington, D.C. There were three other meetings, but not to the scale that we're seeing. The engagements that we're seeing right now are at a different level. And I was on the call on the White House background call this morning. They talked about the warmness. They talked about the friendly nature of the relationship. They said, they're appreciating the fact that India has taken steps to reduce the debt, to reduce the tariffs. And they think, this is going to be another big stepping stone that will provide template for the years to come with Trump 2.0 and India. When it comes to India specifically, they also talked about Indo-Pacific and China. So I think all in all for right now, until we see what Donald Trump decides at 1:30 about the tariffs, this is turning out to be a very successful visit. Even though it's less than 24 hours that the Prime Minister is going to be in Washington, D.C., the engagement speaks for themselves. The message is clear. India is very dear to Trump 2.0, and that's what we're seeing through these images.
Stay with me for a moment. I also want to bring in India Today's Foreign Affairs editor Geeta Mohan joining us from Blair House. I have Sushant Sareen, Senior Fellow at the Observer Research Foundation with us. Professor Brahma Chilani, a very well-respected strategic affairs analyst, former advisor to National Security Council joining us. Seema Sirohi is a columnist and a writer, author who joins us from the United States of America. Geeta, quickly coming to you. What do we expect from this meeting right now with Elon Musk and then subsequently the meeting with Donald Trump, where he has already posted on Truth Social about tariffs?
Well, again, not the first time that Prime Minister Modi is meeting with Elon Musk. It is going to be an important one, a significant meeting, given that now he's part of the Trump administration. While they say that there is going to be conversation on whether if Starlink is going to come to India anytime soon, or for that matter, whether if there is going to be any forward movement on Tesla, again, coming to India and manufacturing in India. But there is also maybe going to be a conversation on the Department of Government Efficiency and how Prime Minister Modi has also tried to make his own government lean and efficient. A lot when it comes to conversations, but the visuals are also quite interesting, Gaurav. The fact that Elon Musk has been going and taking his son, along for most of the meetings. This time he comes with three of his kids. We'll have to wait and see. When he met with J.D. Vance's kids, there were gifts that were given to both the children, although it was the son's birthday as well in Paris. We'll have to wait and see what is in store for these three from Prime Minister Modi to Elon Musk's kids.
Each gift is so well thought out, Geeta. Each gift is so well thought out. The gifts for little children, made in India toys, wooden toys, and no artificial colors that you see in toys that come from other countries that could be harmful to your health, to your children's health. Little children have a habit of taking those toys in their mouth, and that is why natural vegetable dyes, good made in India toys that are now being exported. Seema Sirohi, I want to bring you into this conversation. Geeta, stay with us. Seema Sirohi, what should one make of that Truth Social comment of Donald Trump just before or just hours before this meeting at the White House?
You mean the one about the tariffs?
The one
right?
about the tariffs, yes.
Yes. See, he has been talking about that for a while now, and it's no surprise. Perhaps it's a bit of in-your-face kind of a thing to do it just hours before he meets the Prime Minister. But with Trump 2.0, one has to expect that. He's playing to the base, that is the MAGA base, constantly. Every move is kind of designed to show them that he's keeping his promises. And that's what it's about. We don't know if India will figure on the list, but it is likely it would. And it will depend on Indian diplomats and the Prime Minister how they play it, because it could create a problem back home.
could create a problem, and how big could that problem be? Is this just happening in the beginning of negotiations? Trump taking a maximalist stand, and then in conversations there is dialing down. Professor Brahmachalani, how do you view that message, that cryptic message of Donald Trump on Truth Social?
If you look at it from the American standpoint, the US is in relative decline. It has been waging wars for more than 2 decades, sapping its strength. Look at the Ukraine war. The Ukraine war has exposed America's own military shortcomings because the supply of weapons to Ukraine, the frenetic supply of weapons, depleted America's own stocks of essential munitions and air defense systems. So this country wants to focus on rebuilding its strength at home. This is Trump's agenda. And the US has large trade deficits with many countries. In fact, with most countries, it has trade deficits. So the whole idea is to wipe out, or at least to sharply reduce these trade deficits. Now, from India's standpoint, the US is the only major economy with which India has a trade surplus.
Yes.
And in fact, India is the only Asian economy, which is important. India is the only Asian economy that trades more with the US than with China. Every other Asian state has China as its main trading partner. So for India, even though there is a trade surplus with the US, overall, India has a huge trade deficit globally. And the difference is this: for the US, the overall trade deficit with the world makes up only 4% of its GDP. But for India, its overall trade deficit with the world makes up 10% of the GDP. So whatever pressure the US applies on India to reduce the surplus will actually further widen India's trade deficit and will further weaken the rupee against the dollar. So it'll have a cascading effect. But I think in terms of the tariffs, the reciprocal tariffs, there is room for less concern because India's tariffs on US imports have come down drastically. The average tariff rate now is less than 5% on imports from the US.
It's been reduced, and this budget has sought to address that. But Sushant Sareen, when Prime Minister Narendra Modi traveled to the United States of America, this conversation was seen initially as two of the world's most powerful democracies, two close friends meeting, and the trajectory would be on a high and a high. But then there are some who say that the tariffs could be a major speed bump in the relationship, or in the overarching relationship. This is just one aspect.
I think this is just one aspect, Gaurav. It's not the only thing which is determining relations between India and the United States. And it's not as though this is a bolt from the blue which is striking us.
Yes.
At the time Trump got elected, even at that point of time, this was anticipated that, he has these two bugbears, if you want to call it, or a bee in his bonnet. One is about, tariffs and reciprocal tariffs, which he wants to announce today. And the other one is on trade deficit. Now, we knew this is happening. And that is why we were trying to preempt it by saying that, look, okay, if you're going to be selling more oil, we are ready to buy more oil from you. So, look, as far as we are concerned, we are a net importer of oil. Okay, now whether we import oil from Russia, Saudi Arabia, United States, Venezuela, we will import it from wherever we get it cheaper. If the Americans are going to start pumping oil prices fall, we'll import more oil from the US. It doesn't matter to us. So we will probably reduce our surplus with the US, but we will then reduce our deficit, for example, with Russia or Saudi Arabia. So the point is that, you have to look at trade in a much more holistic way.
Yes.
Apart from trade, look at the other security and strategic areas in which there is so much happening between India and the United States. Now, if we are going to limit it only to these things like trade or, a couple of tariffs being put, or that we have given some concessions to the Americans on trade and tariffs, and then ignore the rest of the picture, then I think you should not get into the strategic game at all.
In fact, that's what we need to see. What is it that Prime Minister Narendra Modi brings for India, and especially are we able to bring something which will hold India in good stead? Critical technology, transfer of technology, make in India when it comes to military hardware, and especially fighter jet engines that are so desperately required. We'll talk about that in just a moment with our guests who stay with me on this special broadcast. But that images that we have and more information that's coming in, Geeta, Elon Musk with chiffon zillies and purple coat and Neuralink and twins Azure Strider and Lil X is someone that people have been talking about, was on Elon Musk's shoulder at the Oval Office even earlier. That make America great again, strong family values, very strong messaging from the US.
Well, absolutely. While there would be many who would question why Elon Musk gets his children to various government meetings, this is a special one where he's meeting Prime Minister Modi, and therefore he's taken his children along. And again, like we discussed earlier, these visuals are going to be discussed for a very long time. We do know that, Gaurav, Elon Musk going to various important government meetings and taking X along has not gone down too well. There has been a lot of criticism on that front. But his personal meetings or call-ons going with the kids is a personal touch and a gesture to the leadership that he's meeting. And in this case, it is Prime Minister Narendra Modi. So we'll again have to wait and see what is it that Prime Minister Narendra Modi has in store for these children. There are important conversations to be had. The most important one being the fact that President Trump is holding a press conference at about 1 p.m. here in Washington, D.C., just ahead of his meeting with Prime Minister Modi. He's put on his social media platform, Truth Social, that this is a big day and a big one for reciprocal tariffs. So President Trump pushing very hard, putting his stance forth, and not budging. How much negotiating space will India have is something we'll have to wait and see, because this is going to be a very important one, not because it's the most important part of India-US ties, because it is very important for President Trump. And navigating that space is going to be important. But there are very important aspects of ties between India and the US that will be discussed, whether it's defense, strategic, China, Iran, the conflicts where India has a very important and a key role to play. And US recognizes that. So, and technology, of course, artificial intelligence, the future. So there are a lot of positives and convergences, but these areas of divergences are something that we'll have to wait and see what really happens, because he is going to set the tone and tenor for the
for
talks.
a moment, Geeta, let's talk about these images of Elon Musk with his family, with little children in tow. Seema Sirohi, X with Elon Musk at the Oval Office when Trump was talking to cameras. What is America, when they talk about make America great again, what is the message that they're trying to send out? This must be there must be careful messaging here.
Well, there are multiple things going on. Number one, there are no rules for Elon Musk. He is above everyone else in the Trump circle. People like Steve Bannon and others, they're quite irritated by Musk and his proximity to the president. But that aside, the fact that he has sort of taken the axe to so many government departments, and Trump so far has supported him in public, to the extent that Time magazine put Elon Musk at the desk in the Oval Office. But Trump seemed unfazed by that. Right now, things are going swimmingly well between the two, but people say that Musk is flying too close to the sun.
Okay.
It's a matter of time before the president feels that, he's getting too much attention, perhaps, or he has gone beyond a certain red line, which we don't know what that is. according to many other people in Washington, Musk has crossed many red lines. But I wanted to say one more thing about the tariff. I think too much focus on that
Yes,
may not be good. I agree with
Sushant.
Sushant that this is a very wide-ranging relationship. There's a strategic logic to it, and people in Trump's cabinet totally recognize that. In the pre-briefing that they gave before the visit, which was this morning, they talked about it. They called India a very critical partner.
Okay.
So they're very well aware. On the side, they want XYZ.
Just a quick
That
word.
is,
What's your message for Prime
more
Okay, there's
arms
another
sales.
image of Vivek Ramaswamy now coming in to meet Prime Minister Narendra Modi at Blair House. So, while we continue our conversation, that important message that you're giving out, also for a moment, just quickly talk to us about Vivek Ramaswamy, him meeting Prime Minister Narendra Modi, his falling out, as many say, with Elon Musk. Where does he stand now?
He is running for governor in Ohio. He was denied the Senate seat. So the current governor, didn't nominate him to take the Senate seat that became vacant. So he's a little bit on the outs. That is because he angered the MAGA crowd. He went too far in criticizing American culture and, sort of elevating Indian values and just completely dissing Americans.
Yes.
That was a bridge too far. He shouldn't have done it. And he has a tendency to not to know when to stop.
Okay.
That's my sense. So it's very interesting that the Prime Minister decided to meet him because he's now a little bit on the fringes.
Okay.
Perhaps this is the signal from the Indian side that, our diaspora is strong and it has important, intelligent people who
Yes.
are, critical members of American society.
And that point that you were making, and it's a very, very important point that you're making, that this relationship and the point that Sushant was making, Professor Brahmachelani, that this is a very important relationship between India and the United States of America, not restricted just to one issue of tariffs. Professor Chilani.
The relationship with the US is the most important relationship for India. It is critical to India's economic and military security, to its access to technology and capital, and even to its international image. Over the past several decades, there have been ups and downs in the US-India relationship. The past decade has been no different. As you know, Trump's first term was the best period in India-US ties. And then came Joe Biden. And under Joe Biden, this relationship reached a low point. Disputes and differences came to the fore when Modi last visited the US to attend the Quad Summit in September. Just on the eve of his visit, the White House played the Khalistan card by inviting Khalistan militants to the White House for a briefing. And then we had, after that visit to the US, the Biden administration slapped two indictments,
Yes.
one against a former Indian intelligence officer and then against Gautam Adani. And when they indicted Adani, it conveyed the message that they were going after Modi himself, given the perceived closeness between Modi and Gautam Adani. So the relationship really came under strain in the last 1 year of Biden. That's when the US also played a role in backing the regime change in Bangladesh.
Yes.
So after that period, especially when Trump was elected in November, elected to a second term, it revived hope in New Delhi that this relationship could be restored.
Okay.
And the fact that Modi is in Washington just 3 weeks after Trump began his second term indicates that the purpose of this visit is to mend the relationship with the US.
an attempt to mend the relationship. The conversation is all about mending the relationship, bringing it on an even keel. So, India today put a question to Vivek Ramaswamy as he went in to meet Prime Minister Narendra Modi. Listen in.
Vivek, just a quick word. What's your message for Prime Minister Modi? Vivek, just a quick word. What's your message for Prime Minister Modi?
Listen in. Let's once again listen in to Vivek Ramaswamy as he goes into Blair House to meet Prime Minister Narendra Modi.
Vivek, just a quick word. What's your message for Prime Minister Modi? Vivek, just a quick word. What's your message for Prime Minister Modi? Vivek, just a quick word. What's your message for Prime Minister Modi?
Once again, want to call in, bring into this conversation Seema Sirohi. Seema Sirohi, that background briefing at the White House, or the Americans, what's the message from them? Yes, tariffs is a big issue. As far as the US is concerned, there were some who were saying that this isn't India specific, whether it's China, Canada, Mexico, it's reciprocal. It depends on what tariffs are from whatever country. What's the overall messaging from the US, Seema?
Overall messaging is very clear. It's positive. It's absolutely positive. This briefing was proof of that. And they talked about defense cooperation. They talked about the Quad. They talked about the Indo-Pacific. And, in the run-up to the Prime Minister's visit, if you remember, the very first meeting the Secretary of State had, Marco Rubio, was with the Indian Foreign Minister, Mr. Jaishankar. So, and the very first foreign policy event in Washington was a meeting of Quad foreign ministers. Also remember where Jaishankar was sitting at the inauguration.
Yes.
Right in front in a corner seat. I mean, those things don't happen by chance. They are managed, right? And they are managed with the efforts from both sides. So I think so far Indian diplomacy has done rather well. We shall see what happens in the meeting. I am confident that the Indian side is coming with some offers that will work with this administration. I mean, after all, they are reading the tea leaves.
Yes.
Everything is very clear. One thing about Trump, you can say, you see what you get, like, he's very direct. There is no knifing you in the back. There's knifing from the front. If you want to put it that way.
Well, knifing from the front is always better than knifing from the back, Professor Brahmachandani. And I also want to bring in Sushant Sareen into this conversation, because in the last days, and especially the last couple of weeks and months of the Biden administration, most of the knifing that took place was in the back. So there's a state visit of Prime Minister Narendra Modi, and Khalistanis are being briefed at the White House. And then there's this so-called regime change operation by the deep state in Bangladesh. So all of that was knifing India in the back, Sushant Sareen.
No, clearly, look, so Gaurav, what you have to understand is two things. One, the importance of India is, I think, bipartisan. The Democrats and the Republicans recognize it. But the Democrats want a compliant, subservient, obsequious India, which is a mirror image of the kind of transgender, DEI kind of society, that nonsensical, woke society which the Democrats hanker for. India is not ready to do that.
Yes.
So that is why you have to interfere. You have to destabilize the government. The Republicans are quite okay with whatever government you have out here, provided you are ready to do business with them, which we are ready to do in any case, or across the board. That's the big difference between them. Even Obama. You remember Obama coming out here and sermonizing to us how we should run our country? Don't you remember that?
Of course.
Throughout the Democratic presidents, we've had this sermonizing going on, this hectoring going on, this pontification going on. And as though American society is absolutely perfect. like it's the land of milk and honey, where, overflowing with the milk of human kindness, which is utter nonsense. So somebody needs to ask them to lay off. And I am very comfortable with somebody like a Trump, who I know what I'm going to get from him. I know what
Yes.
I'm expecting from him. He'll be a little abrasive. I have to have a thick skin. In Indian politics, you already have a thick skin. So if you have a thick skin, you can handle a Trump, right? It's not a big deal. The important thing.
And he's a deal maker. But, Sushant Sareen, stay with me for a moment. Professor Chilani, so is Prime Minister Narendra Modi. Donald Trump wants a good deal for America. He wants to make America great again. Prime Minister Narendra Modi talks about Atmanirbhar Bharat. Is there a meeting ground, especially when it comes to high-end defense technology, jet engines, for example, that are desperately required, that has pushed the Tejas light combat aircraft project back by decades, unfortunately? And Air Chief recently spoke of it. He was caught on camera talking about it. Of course, part of it, HAL's responsibility. Part of it, America hasn't supplied the General Electric engines.
Gaurav, you raise a very critical question. At the broader level, Modi's Make in India initiative is not in sync with Trump's Make America Great Again vision. So there is some, the two visions collide to some extent, but that doesn't mean that the two sides cannot work together. Both sides are seeking to strengthen their country's economic and military security. They can certainly find meeting ground where they can cooperate and collaborate. You mentioned the GE engines that were delayed, many believe deliberately, as leverage. This happened during the period when US-India relations were fraying under Biden's presidency. So it was not a coincidence that just when India was needing those engines,
Yes.
there were certainly excuses as to why the engines are not being supplied. But that reinforced the image of America and India of not being a reliable defense partner. So when India now seeks to buy more weapons from the US, and India will certainly be buying more weapons from the US, there will be some assurances that India will need that there won't be a similar experience in terms of supplies, because the last thing India wants is this kind of deliberate delay in supplying critical components or even finished systems, because that would certainly upset India's defense planning.
In fact, many in India were very, very skeptical when NSSP Seema Sirohi was being talked about, the next step in strategic partnership. We'd burnt our fingers. Remember, after the Pokhran nuclear tests, when the Sea King and Sea Harrier parts weren't coming in, our entire Sea King helicopter and Sea Harrier fighter jets for the Indian Navy, their fleet was grounded, Seema Sirohi. Yet India trusted America. The relationship was on an amazing trajectory until many argue the GE 404 engines were delayed deliberately. So can India trust America?
Gaurav, I'm not sure if I would go so far as to say they are being deliberately delayed. I think there is one South Korean company that has shut down. That was a part of the supply chain for this. At least that is the explanation I've heard from experts here and in India. So, and then the second reason is that India was kind of late in putting in its orders because the bureaucracy takes longer. There are other orders preceding in the Indian order. The third point Americans always talk about is, oh, you guys don't make a noise when the S-400 is delayed or when the Russians don't deliver because they are at war, but you're extremely critical of anything to do with the US. So this is the scenario. I don't know for a fact whether the South Korean company situation is true or not, but it is something to find out about.
But are we also seeing transfer of technology, Seema Sirohi? That is something that India is very keen on, that fighter jet engines are made in India, made for India, and then made for the world. Now, is this relationship, when we talk about ISET and DTTI, Defense Trade and Technology Initiative, do we see this relationship move forward in that direction? First you and then Sushant Sareen? Or is all this just a lot of jaw, talk happening 2005, 2015 and now 2025?
Okay, the short answer is yes, because in the morning briefing, just today, they talked about ISET proceeding. They might call it something else. The one problem I do see in terms of
और आपको बता दें कि डोनाल्ड ट्रंप प्रशासन में
Okay, live images coming in from Blair House. Prime Minister Narendra Modi in conversation with Elon Musk. We do not have an audio on this just as yet, but we will have an audio in a short while from now. But just look at the entire Indian delegation on one side. I could see India's ambassador to the United States in these images. There's a gift for the Prime Minister from Elon Musk. There's a conversation that's happening. In a moment, we'll be joined by Geeta Mohan, my colleague. We have the Foreign Secretary, we have the Foreign Minister, we have the National Security Advisor, all sitting there. Seema Sirohi, from the Indian side, the entire delegation is there. On the American side, there's the Dodge chief and his family and his little children.
I have to say, I find it a little bit strange that you bring children to an official meeting. I know it's all very cool, quote unquote, and all that, but I just don't know. Maybe it'll take some time to get used to it, to have your son on your shoulders as you're hanging around the Oval Office. It just gives a non-serious feeling to everything.
It actually does, yes. But what should one make of it? I mean, are they sending out that message, we are strong on family, we are strong on bonds, we see little children, we see, his friend with him. How are Americans reacting to this, Seema Sirohi?
See, so far, they're just reacting to Musk and his absolute power over things. It hasn't sort of trickled down to the MAGA crowd that children are part of the Oval Office situation, So maybe the idea is some sort of subliminal message about family values and having family and, an indirect message against LGBTQ community. Who knows? But I'm still digesting it. I think just from a very straightforward optics point of view, it's strange. It is very strange.
It is. Professor Brahmachalani, Elon Musk is with Siobhan Zillies in that purple coat, the Neuralink director, the twins Azure and Strider and Lilex in that meeting with Prime Minister Narendra Modi. And then the Prime Minister has the NSA, the External Affairs Minister, India's ambassador to US, Foreign Secretary, all on one side.
This is an informal meeting. He has brought his children's nannies. The two women are, he is not married. The two women there are the nannies of the children. And when J.D. Vance met Prime Minister Modi in Paris, he also had his children with him. I don't think the children are an issue. The thing is that Modi wants Musk to invest in India. He pressed him last time, but he couldn't persuade him last time. I don't know what more he can do to get Musk to invest in India. Modi thinks that Musk's investments in India, bringing especially Tesla to India, will be good to India for India's image as a destination for FDI. Starlink, of course, will not have the same attraction because Starlink is not a high-speed broadband. It's a satellite-based system that provides moderate speed. It's okay for a country like Ukraine, where the infrastructure has been devastated, and the Starlink provides stable internet service, even though its speed is relatively low. But for India, where in all our cities, even in smaller cities now, we have high-speed broadband. So Starlink doesn't have the same attraction. But bringing Tesla to India, Modi feels, is going to be a boost to India's image as a destination for foreign direct investment.
So bring in Tesla. That is nice. That is something that India wants. But make in India, Sushant Sareen, even when it comes to Tesla, don't make in China and then export to India and expect a lot of cuts when it comes to tariffs. That is what India has been insisting on, and all the facilities India is happy to provide. Isn't that the impression we get, that you make Tesla in India, for India and for the world?
Yeah, so Gaurav, just allow me to make two quick points before I come to your question. One, yeah, come on, when in Europe and in the United States, women carry their kids into parliament or in the Senate or the Congress, nobody cribs about it. Nobody says this is being very non-serious. Right? So here is a guy, single father, who's bringing his kids to a meeting and he's talking serious stuff. Let him talk serious stuff. As Brahma says, the kids are there, but this is an informal meeting. The Prime Minister and Elon Musk will talk business, right? So I don't see what's the problem in that. Second point, I think we need to make it very clear that the Americans are being disingenuous when they say, well, we don't complain about the Russians when they delay supplies. One of the reasons for diversifying our defense purchases is because the United States or some of the European countries are seen to be reliable suppliers. They will supply in time. If the same thing is going to operate with the United States as it operates with Russia, that delays are going to take place, then clearly, there are serious questions which are going to be raised. But on your question, look, there are three things.
Yes.
On Starlink, there is a security issue. There has to be some way to be able to monitor it, to be able to regulate it. And we cannot allow this kind of a communication system to come in and operate without any kind of regulation, because there are very serious security implications in a country like India, especially with terrorists becoming active again across the Indian landmass, right?
Yes.
On the borders. The second issue is on Tesla. On Tesla, this negotiation has been going on for donkey's years. At one point of time, India was ready to open the doors. Tesla wanted some extra concessions, and we were saying that no, we are not going to do anything special for you. Now, my point is that if you are talking about a cutting edge technology, one of probably the finest car in the world, a world beater in many things, I would have gone out of my way to attract that company into India to set up base out here, even if it meant
absolutely.
Right, and
set up base in India.
We have a Babu mindset. We have a bureaucratic Babu mindset that I'm not going to do any favors for anybody. This nonsense that we keep saying that, so what if Amazon invests $5 billion in India? What is $5 billion? As though, the person who says that can bring $5 billion on his own. So we need to be very clear on how to do business. And if Tesla comes in and sets up a manufacturing plant out here, it is our engineers, it's our mechanics who get trained on those things.
Yes.
We will get a vendor base out here for EVs going forward. It is a Maruti model, scaled up about 20 times, right?
And you're absolutely right about Tesla. I've driven it both in Israel and in the United States of America. Truly, truly cutting edge, as you very rightly point out. And those concessions that need to be made, will they be made? Will those special deals happen? All of that is about getting that deal. Both deal makers in conversation right now and in moments from now. Geeta Mohan joins me, and Geeta, Siobhan is also with Elon Musk, Neuralink chief, Neuralink director. It just goes on to show, one, important, families are important. Make America Great Again is the deal, is the thing, and it's a very informal setting in which this conversation is taking place as far as Elon Musk is concerned.
Well, that's right. The fact that every meeting and people who are brought in, like Sushant said, one should not make a big deal of Elon Musk bringing his kids along. In this case, I'd say that, it's a gesture. But I was talking about how in the past, in every meeting, bringing him to serious meeting, to bringing X to serious meeting, has invited a lot of criticism here in the United States of America. Having said that, in this case, having the Neuralink CEO and having his three children as part of, or his having kids as part of that entire meeting in itself goes to show that there's messaging here. It's clear that he's looking at the interpersonal relationship. He has met Prime Minister Modi before as well. But more importantly over here, what does the future hold for India and for not the United States of America, but particularly this corporate house that is talking about future technology? And in that front, how are the two countries going to cooperate? How is Elon Musk and his company going to cooperate with the Indian government? Is Starlink coming to India? Are the Tesla vehicles coming to India? These are very important conversations because they take forward the conversation on future technology and going green, looking at electric vehicles, looking at more connectivity, and looking at the space. So a lot of areas to be covered over here. We'll wait for a readout on what really transpired between Elon Musk and Prime Minister Modi. His third meeting with Vivek Ramaswamy has begun. And again, a lot to unfold over here because Elon Musk and Vivek Ramaswamy, Gaurav, are the two people who backed India and Indians working in America when the whole controversy regarding
the
visas regarding
yes.
Indians and H-1B particularly. Not many understand the complexity of H-1B visa or highly skilled Indians working in the United States of America, where these two came out and stood not just with Indians working over here, but with the entire idea of how it is important that these talented Indians get their due and space here in the United States of America.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, America also needs the right kind of Indians to keep American economy going, and the right kind of Indians, not the illegal variety that take the donkey route. Of course, that also, Seema Sirohi, would be an issue because it just exploded in India. I want to talk to you about Elon Musk, but since, we're talking about the donkey or the illegal route that people take to go to the United States, and some who've been sent back in shackles and chains. India's taking that up. Is America receptive to that?
Look, I'm sure the Indian delegation is going to take this up. I think the first flight back very pointedly in a military plane, which, by the way, is much more expensive than sending people back on commercial flights. Again, it was a message for the MAGA crowd. And shackling them, all that, knowing full well is going to play badly for Modi at home. So now, if this continues, if they continue this, then it's going to be a bilateral problem. But if this was a one-time thing that, because there are 17 or 18,000 illegals who have been identified by the Americans, not yet by the Indians, as illegal migrants. If they have to be sent back, and I assume they will be, and if they use the military planes again, I think it's going to become a problem.
Okay, we're getting the first reaction coming in from Prime Minister Narendra Modi on his meeting with the American National Security Advisor. The Prime Minister has said had a fruitful meeting with NSA Michael Waltz. He has always been a great friend of India. Defense, technology and security are important aspects of India-USA ties, and we had a wonderful discussion around these issues. There is strong potential for cooperation in sectors like artificial intelligence, semiconductors, space and more. So, Professor Chilani, the Prime Minister has set out the broad contours of the conversations that have been had with the NSA. And the NSA, who's actually been a very strong friend of India. The India caucus talked about how India-US relationship needs to be taken altogether to a new level.
Trump has a strong national security team, and the entire team is India friendly. His Secretary of State, his NSA, his Defense Secretary, and now the Director of National Intelligence, they're all friends of India. And the US India relationship is key to a stable balance of power in the Indo Pacific region. The Indo Pacific is emerging as the world's economic and geopolitical hub. Yes. The next world order will be determined not in Europe or the Middle East, it will be determined in the Indo Pacific. And that's where America's strategic focus needs to be. And that's why Trump's effort, the current effort to end the war in Ukraine is so important, because it allowed the US to shift its strategic focus from Europe to the Indo-Pacific. Remember Barack Obama in 2011, yes, 14 years ago, unveiled his pivot to Asia policy. 14 years later, America has still not pivoted to Asia, because they got involved in the Middle East wars, then they got involved in the Ukraine war, and then again involved in the Middle East. So they have got mired in regions where their vital interests are not at stake. The vital interests of America are in the Indo-Pacific. That's where China, if it were to commit aggression against Taiwan, if it were to absorb Taiwan, it'll completely change the international security landscape. It'll be the end of America's global preeminence.
And also that is something that America wants to desperately avoid at all costs. They want, and that is where Sushant Sareen, the point that that Professor Brahmachelani was also raising, the Indo-Pacific is very important. India at the top of Indian Ocean region, we are extremely, extremely significant, but all those strong words have to be followed up by very strong action, whether it's the fighter jet engines that India requires, whether it's the ships that India requires, the drones that India requires, and that cutting edge technology that India requires, not just to checkmate China, but be on top of the situation.
No, look, Gaurav, you have up to a point you are right. Okay, but look, I think we are living in a fool's paradise if we think cutting edge technology is going to be given to us by anybody. The Russians have never given it to us. The Americans are not going to give it to us. We have to learn how to make it, or we have to steal it. There is no other way of doing this. Okay. So we need to be very clear about what we can actually expect from them. Number one. Number two, I think where India just really stands out is that unlike the Europeans, who have been mooching off the US for their security for the last 75 years, India has been standing on our own 2 feet. Absolutely. Insofar as our security is concerned. We don't depend, we might depend on people for platforms and stuff, but we don't depend on them to fund our defense, right? So we are able to stand on our own, and we are probably the only country which has been ready to take on the Chinese the way, we've done over the last 4-5 years, right? We've entered into a game of, brinkmanship with them, and we haven't come out bad out of that. So the point is, none of the others have the capacity to stand up to China. Question, however, is how far are we willing to go? Are we ready to get into some kind of an alliance arrangement? And there seems to be a great reluctance in India, and for some very valid reasons, to get into any kind of a grand Eastern NATO kind of an alliance system, right? So where does this defense cooperation, how far does it go?
Well, it takes two to tango. It very clearly takes two to tango. We need the hardware, we need the technology. They need to retain their supremacy vis-a-vis China. It depends on how best can India negotiate and how best will Donald Trump negotiate.